Hello, yogis. Welcome to Yoga for Dentists. I'm Dr. Josie DeVideo, longtime dentist, registered yoga teacher, and certified wellness consultant. Today, I'm chatting with registered dental hygienist Katrina Klein. Katrina also happens to be a certified personal trainer and a certified ergonomics assessment specialist. She lectures around the country about ergonomics and posture and how to use fitness to enhance those things. And so I thought she would be a great guest to have on the show to help us sort of unravel some of these issues that plague dental professionals. So Katrina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be part of this. I love how we have, very similar passions as far as wellness and helping the dental industry to be out of pain. Well, we want that.
Yes, it's such a prevalent thing that we deal with. And so it's helpful to have a team of people putting this message out there and saying, hey, you should probably pay attention to this.
Right. Yep. You only get one body.
That's right. So Katrina, for my audience members who don't really know who you are, I know a lot of them do, but for those that don't, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Like, how long have you been a hygienist? How did you get interested in personal training? Tell us your story.
Well, I've been in dentistry for 25 years. I started at 19 working in the front office. Decided getting yelled at over the phone all day wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
So I went to Delta Dental and worked there, and that's kind of where my ergonomic journey began. Because being an insurance company, they really focus on not getting a lot of workers' comp claims, and so they made sure we had ergonomic training, and they made sure the desks were all set up correctly. And then I did that until I got into hygiene school, and I've been a hygienist for 16 years now, practicing full time. Still practice full time, even though I've gone into speaking and writing articles. At one point, I was working in an office where we had a relatively new hygienist of about 2 years, and her posture was horrible. She was seeing a chiropractor twice a week. She had PT. She had a massage every week, all the things. And she was in so much pain. And she would say to me, Katrina, there's no way I can do this for 5 years. And I just remember looking at her and saying, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you try that? And why don't you let me take you into the gym? We can maybe work on your posture. And about 8 weeks after that, she said, you have to share this with everybody. You can't keep this to yourself. And here I am. So yeah, it's been fun. I got into bodybuilding competitively, and that's really where the certified personal trainer aspect came from, because I learned a lot about biomechanics, and I'm just such a nerd about it. I love how the body moves and how things function, and so I was able to incorporate my love of dental as well as my love of fitness and put them together to help people with their ergonomics.
Yeah, I remember finding that fascinating about you, that you were actually a bodybuilder too. And did you compete in some competitions as well, if I remember correctly? Is that right?
Yep, I got my trophies, I got my medals, and I retired at 40 because at 40 your body doesn't bounce back quite as quickly.
Yes.
And then my trainer passed away, and I got into Spartan racing, which I found to be really, really fun. That's kind of where I'm wearing my Spartan hoodie. But I loved it because I could do all of my strength training. I could run fast and jump high and do epic stuff, but I didn't have to diet. And I loved that. And then, COVID happened, so that kind of shut that down a little bit. And I've just been really diving into this part of my life, which is also very gratifying. So it's fun. I love it.
Yeah. And it shows. I, follow you on social media and I see your posts. And what I appreciate about you is you really practice what you preach, right? You're showing us your workouts at the gym, and you're showing us, when you're out on the trails doing your hikes and all of the things. So that's really inspiring. So keep that up.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like you have to walk your talk, right?
That's right. So you started helping your friend who is a hygienist with her posture and ergonomics. And lo and behold, she encouraged you to share this with other people. So right now, I see you online being invited to speak across the country about this very topic. So maybe you can give us like the 2-sentence synopsis. What is the primary message of what you're speaking about currently around the country?
It's about posture enhancement and working properly in the operatory. So it's when preparation and execution meet, because just like an Olympic contestant doesn't just walk up to the line and say, okay, I'm going to run this sprint and get a medal, they have to prepare for it. And
Right.
we are similar because every one of us knows that this career is physically demanding, it's taxing, and it'll break you if you don't take care of it. So if we can prepare our bodies for the jobs that we're asking them to do, and then we go into the operatory and we work correctly, and we use ergonomic strategies, and we can maintain neutral posture in our body, and we don't try to work with chronically contracted muscles,
Right.
we have a much greater opportunity to work as long as we choose to, and do so in less pain, and go home and not have to whine and Advil every day.
Right. And I think that's a really important distinction to make, because I think when, at least for dentists, I'll speak for dentists, when dentists think about ergonomics, they're thinking about their provider chair, their loops, maybe the style of handles on their instruments,
Right.
maybe the weight of their hand pieces. All of those things are part of the puzzle, though, right? They're not
Definitely.
like the solution, right?
Right.
And so what you're saying basically is like, there is stuff we need to look at and do before we even walk into the operatory.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what we do in the operatory is kind of the root of the problem. But when we walk into the operatory without preparation, and it's like walking up to the starting lineup with no shoes on.
Right.
So, and then, yeah, absolutely. If no one's taught you how to hold your handpiece, how to position your patient, no one has said, hey, move their head this way, or lean them back that way, or don't shake and wing it, or whatever,
Right.
whatever, or even given some examples of things that you can do without spending a dime. One of the things I tell dentists all the time, every time I talk at a dental event where I know there's going to be dentists, is there's one free thing you can do, and that's stand for every hygiene check.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a variation in posture, and it gives your back a chance to have less vertebral load. So when you sit, it's twice as much pressure on your discs as when you stand, just by the
Right.
nature of the way gravity works. And so giving your back a break every hour, depending on how many columns you run, that's nice.
Right. Yeah. And that's a good point. I remember years ago, I went to an ergonomics lecture, which, in dentistry, I'm assuming it's the same for hygiene CE, but, we're required to do like infection control and, CPR and all that. Those are requirements. It should be a requirement to have an ergonomics lecture as part of like this package, right?
I
Because
think so.
and it just is a no-brainer to me, but it's not. But if you're listening to this and you can make that happen for the dental industry, that would really save a lot of people. Yeah. So years ago, I went to an ergonomics lecture, and that was a really good, big piece of advice. I mean, you're offering something that's big, which is change your positioning. And I remember from that moment on, throughout my day, like I would do some of my procedures sitting down, some of them standing up, right? I would be mindful that I was maybe shifting all of my weight on my right leg. So maybe for the next half of the procedure, I would shift my weight on the left leg, so you have to be continually moving your body in order to, I don't know if I could say correct an imbalance. I don't think that's valid, but to help prevent it from getting worse, right? You have to be mindful of shifting and moving your body in different ways.
Right.
And to be honest, it feels weird. I mean, when you're used to pressing the rheostat with your right foot and then you got to press it with your left, initially it feels weird, but you do learn how to balance that out. I mean, we can do hard things. We can learn how to do this stuff.
Definitely. Well, and two, that's another thing I talk about is like the rheostat usage. Rather than using your heel as leverage, use just your toes to push the rheostat, and then you can shift your weight onto that rheostat foot and back to the other foot, and then you can shift there and continue using that same foot for the rheostat that you're comfortable with.
That's right.
Foot. But you're right. That micro shifting is something I've kind of, the word I've kind of come up with. If you can just get your weight distribution to move around, you can prevent dysfunction all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you first start doing it, you're probably going to notice that you're a little sore because you're using muscles you have not used before. Right.
Absolutely.
But that means you're doing it right, that you're doing it, you're utilizing, you're inviting other muscles to help support your body doing these repetitive motions that we do in dentistry.
Absolutely. That's actually one of the main things that I tell my fitness clients, because I do personal training with dental professionals that are in pain, and well, 90% of the people that I train are people that have pain.
Yeah.
But I tell them all, you're going to be sore for the first couple of weeks because you're using things you haven't used before, especially the neck exercises I give people. Practicing keeping your chin back, your head back, and doing those exercises. Those muscles have been neglected for decades sometimes.
Yeah.
And so that's a good kind of sore. That's the kind of sore you want, and then it goes away and it feels better. And then you're sore when you don't do it.
Right. Yeah. And I notice that now. As a yoga teacher, I do a lot of yoga personally. And so like maybe there's a day or two where I'm like, I'm not really feeling it, right? Because now I'm in this phase of my life where it's like I'm honoring what my body wants. And today my body doesn't want to move, right?
Right.
Well, so I'll like sit it out for a day or two. And then by the time I get back to my mat, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like I've never done downward facing dog before, right? Like my body all of a sudden is like, no, we need to be moving every day. Like if I tell you to not move, maybe you just move less than you would normally move, right? Like just don't sit it out altogether.
Oh, I feel that so much in my heart right now. I can't even tell you. Yes. And I think especially during the holidays when we get the craziness of added responsibilities and we're in the chaos that is the holidays, it's so much easier with the lack of energy from not having sunlight. I mean, not so much for us on the West Coast, but for a lot of the places in the country. I mean, I was in Minnesota just last month and talking about career longevity and wellness, and seasonal depression is a real thing in a lot of places. They don't get enough sunlight, right? And just having the sun going down at 4 o'clock in the afternoon for some people, it drains us. And the one thing that I do say, and I've even heard Dr. Uchi say it a lot, is 10 minutes a day of walking is better than no minutes a day of anything.
Right.
So I mean, even if you just walk outside or walk in the house or do a 5-minute stretch or just move the body,
that's right.
It's gonna feel so much better than if you didn't.
Yeah.
It is a battle.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I always tell my audience, just do one yoga pose.
Yes.
Just do 1 minute of yoga, right? Like everyone has it fixated, like you have to do it for an hour or, a certain amount of time. It's like, no, your body just needs to move. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a flow that I do for 35 seconds when I get out of bed in the morning. It's 35 seconds. It's nothing special, but it moves all of the groups, all the muscles, and it's just one thing after another. It's very simple, and I get up and I just feel like, okay, I can proceed.
Right.
It's like my body's smiling.
Yeah. And nothing will reinforce that more than when you do what I did and skip it for a day or two, right? Because I think people think like, well, if I work out regularly, then why do I feel so bad if I miss a couple of days? It's because your body needs that movement. It needs the lubrication. It needs the stretch. It needs the strength challenge, right? And so, as an older person, I will tell my audience that, you can only get away with lack of movement for so long. And so at some point, just build that into your mindset of you need to move a little bit every day.
Definitely. Well, and if you were to think about it, like with relation to how we sleep, it's so easy for us to see, oh, if I go to bed every night at 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I don't get up until 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I do that every day, it's so much harder to get back to going to bed at 9 or 10 and getting up at 6 or 7.
Right.
That everybody can comprehend that.
Yes.
But it's directly related to exercise. If you exercise every day and then you don't, it's so much harder to get back on the horse.
Yes. Yeah. It's like you have to do it just for the sake of consistency, and you have to push through resistance. And again, on the days that you don't feel like doing a full exercise, fine, you don't, just pare it back, but have some kind of movement.
Yeah.
some kind of stretch just to like basically let your body know you're paying attention and you're taking care of it.
Absolutely. Definitely. I know for me personally, I have an ankle injury that I'm forced now that I cannot ignore anymore. And I've not been able to rehab it correctly. I'm going to have to go get a procedure done to fix it. I'm going to have to be off of the trails for about 12 weeks. And so I'm going to have to really battle that myself.
Yes.
I have to continue moving just because I can't run or I can't walk or I can't go dancing.
Right.
It's going to be a challenge, but knowing that ahead of time is so much a part of the battle. Knowing that I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to have movements I'm going to do every day that don't require it. And doing that research to know that I can facilitate movement without using that body part.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, because I think a lot of people think, I have an injury, I pulled a muscle or whatever. So yes, you need to rest that particular thing, but that doesn't mean you can't do some other form of exercise or movement that you're just not used to, or maybe you're not as familiar with, right? Like last week or 2 weeks ago, I came back from my trip and did an exercise where I did a lot of squats, like a routine. And you know how that goes. So I could not, I was not happy about how many squats I ended up doing. But the next day, so, you feel it the next day usually. And so I, stretched gently as best as I could. And I did a little bit of yoga to help out. But then I did Pilates instead, right? Because I wasn't really relying on that muscle group, but I was still moving other parts of my body. So you can find other things to do. Think outside the box, right? So if you're injured, if you're, you got a cramp or whatever. I mean, we have so many solutions. I guess what I'm trying to say is there are so many options and so many solutions that we go, oh, well, I can't do this thing I normally do, so I'm not going to do anything.
Right? That comfort zone is dangerous. It really is, because we like to stay on the same equipment that we always use at the gym. We have our same yoga flow that we always do at home. We have our same things that we do. And anytime we get challenged to do something we don't know, like going on live on Facebook, for example, super uncomfortable the first time you do it. And then after you do it, you conquer that fear and you move on. But it's no different than going into the gym.
Right.
For me personally, I've not been a gym rat my whole life. The very first time I went into the gym, I cried in the parking lot like a little girl. And my friend had to drag me out of my car into the gym to sign up a membership. A year later, I was on stage. So I understand, like, gym intimidation, it is a thing. It's real. Using equipment you don't know, that's scary. Not knowing what to do, that's also scary. Yeah. And that's why I try to stay online, and I field messages all day long from people. What do you think about this piece of equipment? What do you think about this exercise? What do you think about whatever? Because I didn't have that. Right. And I want to be a resource for us.
Right. And there's a lot of conflicting information.
Yes.
There's so many like workout styles and routines, plans, and they're good for different people. But I feel like the one thing that you and I both really understand, because of the work that we've done in our careers, is how these things affect a dentist's body.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's why, the services you provide are valuable. I get the same kinds of things, like this hurts now. Okay, well, let's try doing this thing to, rehab that or whatever. And so it's like, it's tricky because we're not in front of the people usually, right? We can't like test things out for them, but we can offer some guidance to them and even tell them like, okay, definitely don't do this, right? Because sometimes half the battle is knowing what not to do, not necessarily what to do.
Yeah. And that's actually what I do with my personal training, because every one of my workout programs is custom made for that person, because everyone comes with different dysfunctions, different pains, different aches, different jobs. I've trained dentists, I've trained hygienists, I've trained assistants, I've trained Spartan athletes, I've trained everybody, and not one of them was the same.
Right.
And so, I've seen x-rays of people that I've had to kind of go, I don't know if I should, this is a tough one. And then lo and behold, it works, because you just go back to the basics. But that is what I do, is I create something custom, and then they can send me a video of them doing the actual movement, and I can evaluate it and say, oh, this is what's going on there. Change this, put your foot here, blah, blah, blah. And that does make a difference. Having that one-on-one coach time, even though it's not in person, it still is really valuable because every gym is different.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of at-home workouts too. After COVID, you wouldn't believe how many people were saying, I need an at-home workout. I'm stuck in my house. I'm going crazy. And I was saying, I am too.
Yeah.
So I looked at COVID kind of as an opportunity to pivot and really embrace what you can do with resistance bands at home. And, you know, last I checked, 24 ounces of Pantene is 24 ounces of Pantene. And if you can, you know, use those as dumbbells, hey, and let's do it.
Right. We have no excuse. We really don't have an excuse.
No.
You know, I wanted to talk briefly about one thing that I'm talking to my audience about, and I know that this is a belief of yours too, is that now is the perfect time to take a look at these things like posture, our fitness, our well-being, our stress management. Now is the time to take a look at those things. So how would you suggest, whether it's a hygienist or a dentist or anybody listening to this, what's the first thing they should take a look at?
Well, I love what you're saying there. First off, I recommend all the time that during times when you anticipate slowdowns, and we all have them in the dental industry, right? You know, whether it's a random occurrence like a recession, I hate to say the R word, but if that's where we're actually going, we know we're going to have a pocket of downtime. Or in September when everybody goes back to school and people kind of get back on the grind of work and whatnot, those are great opportunities to say, okay, we're going to have slowdown. We're going to take a day and do ergonomic training. And, you know, have someone come in and teach a course to the team. I do that. There's a lot of people that do that. Get an ergonomic assessment. You know, we work 25% smarter, harder, and advocate for our patients better when we are not in pain. Those are just facts, right? So it's kind of like giving yourself a raise to do this sort of thing, to understand how to make yourself work so that you advocate for your 4 o'clock patient like you do your 8 o'clock patient.
Right.
And I've said it a million times and I'll say it again. We merely resent that 4 o'clock person for walking in the door. And it's not fair to them and it's not fair to us. That's our integrity. Right. And so if you feel better and you have someone come in when you know you have a problem and they show you what to do to make it so you don't have that problem, that's an investment, right? Your downtime anyway. You may as well use it. Yeah.
You know, it reminds me of like, you know, people come in to dental practices, like dental practice consultants, and they evaluate like when some, you know, take a look at my business systems, take a look at, you know, what am I missing here? Where is this, you know, bottleneck? What can I do better? Why not do that for our personal body?
Yeah.
Right. Why not get an ergonomic assessment? Why not have an ergonomic CE come in, look at your space, look at how you're actually doing things, and help teach you how to best be. You'll find, you know, like you said, to serve our patients best. And let's say you're listening to this and you don't even care about that, you know, which I don't believe. But let's say you don't even care about that. Do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Do it for your own career longevity and how you feel at the end of the day.
Well, right. I mean, how many of us go home at the end of the night? We don't want to play with our kids. We don't want to, you know, we don't really want to talk to our spouses. We want to sit down with a bottle of wine, pop some Advil, and watch some Yellowstone. I mean, we're done.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way. That's not why you have a family and have friends and a social schedule.
Right.
You want to go to work, love what you do during the day, and then go home and feel good about what you did all day long and still have the energy to have like a life.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, why not do it for yourself? And frankly, the amount of pain that you hear all over social media, and there's a study showing 96% of hygienists complain of pain. 96%. 25% of dentists retire from disability.
Yeah.
That's a ridiculous number. Why are we not addressing this? Why are we not actually taking a little bit of prevention mindset, which is odd to me since we are prevention specialists.
Right.
And like kind of flipping it around on us to say, okay, what can I do to make my career, which is not cheap anymore, especially these new dentists that come out of school with these massive loans. that should be required. I mean, they should get a foam roller with their dental handpiece,
Right.
a personal training session or something. So
Agreed.
here you go. Here's your degree, and here's how to use it for the next 30 years, should you choose to.
That's right. Well, Katrina, that brings up the point. Let's say someone does want to talk to you, to work with you. What does that look like? In this day and age, is this done in person? Are you flying to people's offices? Are you doing this via Zoom? Can you tell us more about that?
So what I do offer virtual options for my course that I teach to dental teams. I also speak for study clubs and association meetings and all over the place. So I can offer that to dental teams if they want to virtually, but I do go in person. And I think one thing we all took away from virtual learning is that it is helpful, but you get so much more out of the in-person training and in-person courses. I go to dental teams often and teach my course. Oftentimes I will do a combination of assessments with a course. So I work one-on-one with the dentist or the hygienist in their operatories, shadow them, get them set up with their operatories, get their patient positioning correct, their operator positioning correct, teach them specific stretches that they might need that they can do right there in the operatory. I recommend if there's an exercise that I just know this person needs more, for example,
Right.
I'll give them that, show them how to work in their space so that they can go home and not feel, like they've just ran a marathon for the last 8 hours. So I do that. And then I also do the personal training too, where it's all posture enhancement. Everything that I do in my training programs is to get us sitting up and standing up straight. And then, there's also personal goals too. People want to, tighten, and I cringe when I say the word tone, but tone.
Why does that make you cringe? Tell me why it makes you cringe.
Because that word is what people think of when they think of tone, is they want to see their muscles in some definition. And as a personal trainer and bodybuilder, what that means to me is you want to build muscle and lose body fat. And you can't, that is a tightrope to walk, because in order to build muscle, you have to be in calorie surplus. And in order to lean out, you have to be in calorie deficit. So you got to be okay with, not being on the leaner side when you're building.
Right.
And you got to be okay with not being in a building mode if you're going to lean out. So it's not just as easy as I'm going to go take a HIIT class for 7.5 minutes a day and I'm going to tone out. Like you can lose body fat and see muscle, but if you want to grow the posture muscles that are going to hold, this is a lot of weight right here.
Yes.
So if you want to hold that body back, you got to be okay with growing muscle.
Yeah.
So, and there's a way to do it. So we don't want to, in the bodybuilding world, we call it dirty bulk. You don't want to eat Big Macs and French fries to grow muscle. That's not going to make you work.
Right.
You can do it without, gaining a lot of weight, but you got to put in work and be dedicated to that. So the tone thing is just it's like a magazine label.
Yes. Well, you bring up a good point that we think that we're different than our patients, but we're not. We want the quick fix. We want it to be easy, right? And there's just no such thing. Anything worthwhile takes effort. It takes the right mindset. It takes the desire that's strong enough to, push past the resistance of not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, I would like to be, muscular, but show definition, or I would like to be stronger, have better posture, these are things that you can definitely do, and they're worthwhile, and they will enhance your career and extend the longevity of it. But you can't expect it to be a quick fix. Right.
No.
You gotta be able to work towards it and have it be important to you, as important as everything else that you claim is important is, right? Because when we say this is important to me, then we dedicate our time to it, our resources, and, we follow through. And so if your body, your posture, your overall well-being is important to you, then your actions have to show that.
Absolutely. That's one of the first things that I tell my training clients is this is a 3-month program. My goal is never to make anybody dependent upon me. I want to give you 3 months to learn this so that you can do it forever. Because as long
Right.
as you want the results that you have to continue doing what you did to get them.
Right.
It doesn't, the minute you stop doing it, you start going in arrears, right?
Right.
And it's intentional. Posture is intentional. You have to have that mindset. If you feel that arm going up, that chicken wing going out, you have to see it's there, put it down. If you feel like you're hunching, think about it, put yourself back up. I mean, it's a constant battle in the operatory on how we work until it becomes autopilot where we don't practice that way anymore.
Right.
Similarly, is working out, pushing to where you get, to failure, or meal prepping every week so that you're not going to Carl's Jr. every day on lunch. That's intentional. These things don't
Yes.
happen magically unless, I don't know, you're like Magic Johnson and you have a lot of money and you can pay for a chef and a personal trainer to do it all. I don't know. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true too. If you're not prepared in the kitchen, it's very easy to just grab whatever's quick. And that's usually not helping our
Yeah,
situation.
that is so true. Even if you go to get some of the bulk things, like I love Costco a lot of the times because they
Mhm.
have some really good, like they have a great Caesar salad if you don't use their dressing. They've got a few things that they sell there, but you have to be careful with those pre-prepared meals because they're loaded with sodium, they're loaded with a lot of preservatives that are basically going to end up as calories that aren't going to be nutritious for you. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's work.
Yes. Just being alive and being healthy, man, requires a lot of maintenance, but it's all worth it because, I have a lot of friends and neighbors who have aging parents, and the parents who did not do a good job of maintaining their musculoskeletal system, and even just general health, right? If they're paying for their sins of their youth, let's put it that way. They
Yeah.
are now, as an older person, having to deal with a lot of things that would have been preventable had they thought to take care of it when they were younger.
Absolutely. I mean that's something that I love about yoga too, because that comes into the mindfulness aspect of it. Having mental peace is
Hmm.
so therapeutic to the anti-aging process.
Yes.
In that, if you take moments of just being quiet with yourself and breathing, and that's one of my favorite parts about yoga. Yeah, it feels good, but it's one place where you literally have no choice but to just be quiet and breathe.
Yes.
And we need that as dental professionals, especially dentists, small business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are very dedicated to making these professional things happen. We kind of almost have to be forced
Yeah,
to stop and be still and just think.
that's right.
I know for me personally, I am incapable of sitting down and meditating. So I find meditation occurs for me when I'm running on a trail. If I'm
Hmm.
running super, super fast, all I can think about is my breath and the next step ahead of me, and that's it. And I find my zen and I'm good. But if I don't do that, then I find myself becoming more agitated, having lower tolerance to things. I start eating less smart. I don't follow the regimen, and it always sends me to the same place where I'm like, okay, it's time to go back to the trail.
Yes.
So it is. And I know that later on in life, because I've done this, I'm hoping that I'll be that 85-year-old that is still with it. That patient that we get that's like, oh, they're spicy and they're full of life and they
Right.
talk every day and they do the thing and you're like, there's nothing that's going to get them down. They're going to be 150 before they go.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that's us because we're trying, we're really taking action.
That's right. You and I will be the 85-year-old ladies telling the rest of our colleagues, you should have done this, right? So don't wait to hear it from us when we're 85. We're telling you now, take care of yourself, pay attention to how you're positioning your body, pay attention to how you're preparing your body before you even walk into the operatory, right?
Right. And we don't want it to just be you and me. I mean, let's
Right.
people
We'd
in
like
there
some
we
people
can.
with us. Yeah.
Come on, y'all.
Katrina, clearly you're a wealth of information. If people listening to this episode want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I am all over social media. It's ErgoFit Life on Facebook. I've got a group. I've got a page. I do challenges. I give information every day. There's some bit of something, be it fitness or ergonomics or motivation, inspiration, nutrition, all the things. I'm on Instagram, ergofitlife_Katrina. I've got a website, imagine this, ergofitlife.com. I'm online, or I've got an email, ergofitlife@gmail.com. I mean, like, if you look up ErgoFit Life, you're gonna find me. And I'm always here to help.
Yeah, and it shows from your social media content that it is a big passion for you, and I really appreciate that about you.
Thank you.
Well, if you want to reach out to Katrina, I'll put all of her links in the notes to this episode. Thank you so much for joining me today, Katrina. Have a good one.
You too.